Welcome to week 7. We're almost there, but don't get ahead of yourself. I know there's a tendency to want to focus on that last week, maybe that next class, or if this is your final class, focusing on graduation, in which case, congratulations. But don't get too focused on the future that you forget about what needs to be done right now. Starting with some of the reading this week. The additional reading, one of them is Liqueur, Capelli, Sabati. I talk about how this notion of social responsibility, relatively new, although we studied it for decades now. There's been a renewed emphasis of late to look at corporate social responsibility from different facets. One of which is the bottom line. Does this increase our customer base? Does it increase sales and all that? But there's another way to look at it, and that is just doing the right thing. In other words, not everything is about the bottom line. And of course, those of you who work in nonprofits or other organizations that don't look at the bottom line, you know that there's more important things than just that profit motive. The idea is that there are many for-profit organizations who still have corporate social responsibilities, and they take those seriously. And one of the things the authors discuss is the investors, suppliers, consumers, business partners, in other words, all those stakeholders. They are increasingly requiring companies to integrate their social and societal concerns beyond just economics, right? They want them to do the right thing because it's the right thing, and this includes environmental protection, safe working conditions, the development of communities, all kinds of justice within a society. And those requirements encourage the development of what's known as corporate citizenship, or we're referring to it as corporate social responsibility, or sometimes sustainable development. Now, the study sought to answer a key question, which is, do some companies benefit more from corporate social responsibility communication than others? And if so, why? Okay, and they get into this notion called governance that I'll let you read about. So very interesting study in terms of something kind of topical today, corporate social responsibility and the communication aspects that support that. Okay, second article this week is Robinson and Eilert. They discuss how companies engage in a multitude of activities that often support a wide range of different causes and issues. Their research investigates how companies can communicate these activities in a way that enhances the perception of trust in the company, right? That trust is all important. Trust is important in all relationships, whether it's one-on-one, whether it's one-on-many, whether it's an intra-organization, between departments, between people within an organization, between different organizations, between an organization and all their stakeholders. That trust keeps coming through, and communication is a key way to earn and maintain that trust. So they talk about how much corporate donations are gathered every year. They quote a figure of nearly $18 billion annually that companies spend in the U.S. on corporate social responsibility. Now, I live near Memphis, and so our biggest employer is FedEx. It's founded here. And they donate a lot to many, many things, one of which is another organization that's headquartered here, which is St. Jude. And there are a lot of organizations that support St. Jude, especially right here in the Memphis area. If you were to look at your own city or town, you would probably find that there are some organizations there that enjoy the benefit of those donations from corporate sponsorships. And we, as professional communicators, have to be careful how we communicate that, right? We don't want to appear to be bragging, and we don't want to appear that we're only doing this so that we can get something. But it's also important that the community knows what kind of support can be provided through our organization. Okay, those are the additional readings. Let's move to our primary text, chapter 9, The Power of Public Leadership. Now, as you read this, especially if you have some background in public relations, you'll probably come to the same conclusion that I did. When they talk about public leadership, a big part of that is public relations, okay? So what I want you to do is look at the campaign stages that start on page 313. It's important to know what a basic standard public relations campaign looks like, whether you're in PR or not. One thing you'll note is that a good public relations campaign starts with situational analysis. Sometimes in public relations, we refer to the whole campaign as RPI, Research, Planning, Implementation, Evaluation. Okay, the authors talk a little bit about things related to that, but if you're in Public Relations Society of America or have a public relations background, you're probably familiar with that RPIE or RPI. And let me use this as an opportunity to plug another class that if you want to learn more about the research part, which research is so critical. I can't tell you the number of times I've served with leaders or even other public affairs professionals, and they jump right to, this is what we're going to do and this is what we need. You don't know what to do or what you need until you analyze it, research it, find out what you need, right? Don't round third base before you stand at home plate and make sure you know what pitch is coming and how best to hit it. And that's where research comes in. Two basic areas of research, one qualitative, one quantitative. Both of them have their place. One of the courses that we teach here is qualitative research. And so even if you're not big into numbers, and I know a lot of us aren't, that course doesn't deal with the data side or the quantitative side. It's more of the qualitative side, right? And so I encourage you to explore that and maybe consider taking that because it really is a part of public relations that is too often overlooked. Okay, on page 307, there's a self-assessment. Your authors call that self-assessment the non-verbal immediacy scale. A lot of words. Basically, it's a way for you to kind of reflect upon your nonverbal communication. I encourage you to take that. Another part of public relations, of course, is public speaking. And the authors devote a considerable part of this chapter dealing with public speaking. There are some key elements. You'll find those starting on page 300. And I'm a little biased because I teach another course in public speaking, but I like how the authors talk about the tools that you can use to be a more effective public speaker. And I know there's a lot of apprehension around public speaking, but I'll say two things about that. One, you probably do a lot more public speaking than you realize. You already speak publicly. Every time you answer a question in a meeting or get before your department or division or organization, you're speaking in public, right? The other thing I'll say is that you're never going to completely eliminate, nor should you try to eliminate all the anxiety that you feel when you're speaking in public. What you should do, instead of trying to eliminate it, is try to focus it, right? And use that anxiety to help focus your attention in the areas that you need to. And the area that you need to focus on, of course, is your audience, okay? And of course, one of the greatest communicators, Ronald Reagan, said this about public speaking: be brief, be sincere, and be seated. That's some good advice for all communication, but especially for public speakers. Okay, our quote for the week is from Mahatma Gandhi: "We must be the change we wish to see in the world." So I ask you, what kind of change do you want to see, and what are you doing to make it happen? All right, as always, stay ahead with all assignments, stay engaged in that discussion board, and of course, most of all, enjoy your time of learning.